Please stand for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as follows: by having the time, date, and place of the meeting posted on the bulletin board in the Administration Building, January 8, 2020, by sending a copy of the meeting notice to the Star Ledger newspaper and the Union County local source on April 14, 2020, and by filing a copy with the Hillside, the Township of Hillside, and Hillside Public Library on January 17, 2020. Roll call.
Ms. Best?
Present.
Ms. Hartman?
Present.
Mr. Howard? Present. Mr. Lofton? Mr. Robinson?
Present.
Mr. Salters?
Present.
Mr. Shapiro? Ms. Laurel?
Present.
Ms. Cook?
Present. At this time, we'd like to motion to go into public comments. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Residents are requested to state their names, addresses, and subject matter. In the event it appears the public comment portion of the meeting may exceed 15 minutes, the presiding officer may limit each statement made by a participant to 3-minute durations. Issues raised by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board. All comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate. The board asks that the members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals in speaking. Specifically, comments regarding to students and employees of the board are discouraged and will not be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of the state of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of legal rights of those affected or identified in their comments and be aware that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments.
Public comment was received by email through 6:15 this evening. I'll read them out loud and we will respond between Mr. Gregory and myself. Dear esteemed members of the Hillside Board of Education, I bid you greetings, peace, and the blessing of goodwill. I hope this day finds you well. My name is Dr. Christopher Michael Jones. I'm the senior pastor of First Baptist Church in Hillside. I write to you this afternoon in an attempt to offer 2 questions of inquiry to the esteemed members of the Hillside Board of Education. I hope you can offer responses to these questions at this coming Thursday's meeting scheduled for July 23rd at 6:30. In light of Governor Phil Murphy's recent decision to offer an all-remote learning option to New Jersey students when school reopens in the fall, I'm curious to hear of Hillside Board of Education's response to the following. How and when will the Board of Education implement a comprehensive social distancing plan for students, educators, administrators, and support staff who will revive on campus in the fall? Will such plan be published on your website by August 15th? Mr. Gregory.
So, yes, our school reopening plan needs to first be approved by the New Jersey Department of Education. Tonight in my superintendent's report, I will give you a preview of our proposed reopening model. That once approval is granted, which we are assuming by August 8th, we will publish it immediately on our website, but it must be approved by the state.
What approach will the Board of Education take in an attempt to close the gaping digital divide that currently exists in Hillside? Will the Board of Ed tap into the $54 million in federal aid being offered by Governor Murphy to help Hillside schools secure Chromebooks, laptops, Wi-Fi hotspots, and other pertinent tools needed to help students adjust to the remote instruction being offered in the fall? Who will advocate for those resources and how soon will they be allocated? Many of these items have already been ordered through the CARES Act, which we've been approved for, but we will also be attempting to secure any part of that $54 million that is available to Hillside to ensure these items are available to all. C, how will the Board of Education ensure the safety of Hillside's teachers, administrators, staff comes to enforcing disciplinary measures against students physically present in the classroom? What if the teachers are exposed to COVID-19? If they fall ill, how will their sick leave be affected? Who's responsible for vetting substitute teachers, and how will they be protected? If students become ill, how will they be supported long-term? Mr. Gregory.
Next week, or I'm sorry, the week of August 3rd, we'll be recording a video that will be placed on our website, which will directly answer a lot of the questions that are being posed in this particular question, and we will also review some of those things this evening.
In light of more recent national calls for shifts in the way American public school systems select educational texts that teach American history, I'm curious to know what steps the Hillside Board of Education will take to vet publishing houses that offer more inclusive texts that are historically accurate, more culturally sensitive, and address the valid concerns being voiced by students and parents of color who wish to see a more accurate depiction of American history that includes the contributions of people of color. Mr. Gregg.
Yes, as a former director of social studies, former social studies teacher, and founder of American History High School, the first of its kind in the state of New Jersey, this is something I have a keen eye for and I've been advocating for over 20 years. Just realize the textbooks that you are looking for do not exist. History is to be taught with primary source documents. Because a lot of the inclusion that we are looking for simply does not exist in American history text.
As you can imagine, I pastor a church of over 500 members. A considerable amount of my constituents are educators, administrators, and students within the Hillside public school system. I, along with you, am concerned about their well-being. I hope you can address the questions being submitted, and if need be, allow me to offer support in undergirding the hopes and dreams of our constituents in Hillside. Marissa Bell West, regarding the proposed name change from GW to the Ola Edwards Community School, could you shed light on who Ola Edwards was, what year she served the district, and when she passed? Maybe a short bio might help so that we can share the history with students and parents. And number two goes along with that, will there be any changes to the school mascots, logos? GW's is the Jaguar.
So when we received Ms. West's email, there was a situation on the website where the bios were not visible. But since that time, the bios are up on our website for Ms. Edwards and Ms. Taylor. Everybody to see, and they also are included in our agenda. And as far as the mascots, yes, the GW is a Jaguar. Unless the students want to start a program on changing their mascots will remain the same.
So Matthew Morris, parents received school assignments for next year, while other parents, including myself, did not. I already know my assignment based on my older son, but a lot of parents are still waiting to hear. Could you advise when letters will be sent out and why some were sent and others not?
That will be addressed in my report this evening. I identified the one school, unfortunately, that sent letters out and addressed the administrator. No letters should have went out. We apologize in advance, but they will be going out in the future.
Mr. Anthony Salters writes now, dear school board members and Superintendent Gregory, thank you for your guidance and leadership during this horrible worldwide pandemic. There is no guidebook to this extremely fluid situation. Continue to be encouraged. Kudos to you for bestowing this long overdue honor for our hometown, late beloved teacher Deanna Taylor. She literally sacrificed her life so others could live, a tragic situation that took Ms. Taylor from us way too soon. I must admit, when I heard the name Ola Edwards, I had never heard of her. After speaking to several residents who knew her, I have to humbly say thank you also for actually recognizing Ms. Ola Edwards, former custodian. Custodians, security guards, cafeteria workers, and school secretaries are vital to our school operation and atmosphere. They are the true first responders daily in any school district. Many had to come into work March, April, and May, and June when other personnel could stay home safely with their families, while our school first responders had to leave their families because they were ordered to come to work. Honoring Ms. Ola Edwards sends a loud message to our students who are not college bound. You can contribute positively to your community, do great things, inspire many, love your job, love your life, raise your children, and take care of your family. Have a fantastic life and be recognized for it. Thank you, Ms. Edwards, for your dedication to the Hillside School District. Great choices. Rochelle Haynes, regarding item number 10 under organizational items, will this affect any students currently participating in the choice program? Does it require approval from the Commissioner of Education, or has that happened already? Does this have anything to do with the future magnet school coming to Hillside? That is an organizational item that just allows the clearance for students to make those choices with their parents. Nothing more than that. Number 2, where are we in the process of seeking additional space for CC as listed under the 2020 projects? We have been keeping an eye out for any trailers in good shape that may be available to us. The ones that we did see have been otherwise used, but we will continue to seek out that space and continue to consider any plans for the additional space necessary at Calvin Coolidge. Number 3, what preparations have the district made to prepare each facility and school buses for the return of state staff and students in regard to COVID? That will be included in Mr. Gregory's report in just a moment. Number 4, what's the process for creating district goals? Also, when are they created? We are in that time now, and the board will be taking that up over the next few weeks. Number 5, regarding the child nutrition program, officials listed under the organizational items, is it beneficial to have the same individual holding the varied roles? We had an assistant business administrator at one point, and with the elimination of that position for many reasons, that combination had to take place for Mr. Matt. Ms. Youngerman, I see that we've renamed CC and GW. Please outline the reasons why we've renamed. Explain why we chose the names that we chose. I would also like to note the missed opportunity to wait until the new year began to allow our social studies teachers to turn this into a school-wide project that allowed our students to have a say in naming the schools that they attend. It is also a missed opportunity for our students to explore more about our Hillside community and build pride in the schools. Please provide the timeline for the names that will be changed. There's a lot happening in the next few months, and I hope we're using a realistic timeline to allow all organizations and school teams to update bank accounts, affiliations, paperwork, etc. It will already be a very busy year with so much going on with accommodations for COVID. I hope that we are not adding this in too soon at the expense of the reasonable preparation. I strongly encourage that we postpone this motion until students have the opportunity to have a say in the naming of the schools. Number 2, please explain how the lottery will be conducted for the choice programs if a grade level exceeds 10%. Will this be done prior to students who apply to choice schools and submit for testing or after they receive confirmation? Please help me understand more about Canvas and why we're moving away from Google Classroom to a new tool in such a year of change. I continue to request a more interactive form of meeting than YouTube. We're allowed to have public meetings now and are asking students and teachers to return. We should be able to be present in our meetings or at a minimum, be able to interact with other mechanisms besides emails that are screened and only partially read. Please clarify the use of EXAC. We didn't just authorize another team to do work on the website earlier this year. As it relates to the last one, earlier questions will be addressed in Mr. Gregory's presentation. We've already discussed what was going on with the names and the timeline there as far as changes to the schools. But EXAC is taking over where our previous has not been renewed and did not have an opportunity to do very much work on our website when the school system closed down. Coming in considerably cheaper as well is why the board is going in this direction. Thank you for your attention to these items, and we look forward to more information on our reopening plans. Love to see more parent and teacher input on that. Ms. Cook, that is it.
Motion to close public comments. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. New business?
Under new business, the Hillside Board of Education will take into consideration the suggestion of Board Member Calvin Lofton to add a sub-name to the Hillside High School. Comments or suggestions should be emailed to our meeting email account, as we use for our meetings, through August 11th, 2020.
It's time to take our committee reports. Finance.
Good evening. The Finance Committee met on Monday, July 20th to discuss finance items under the agenda.
That's when we take buildings and grounds.
The committee also met on Monday to discuss buildings and grounds, items 1 and 2.
Ms. Worrell, can you do education?
Education Committee met on July 20th. Discuss items 1 through 6.
And Labor met on July 20th to discuss labor issues. At this time, we'll have our superintendent's report.
Good evening, Madam President, Madam Vice President, esteemed board members, and the Hillside Public Schools community. Tonight's superintendent's report is intended to provide our community a brief overview of our reopening plan and the proposal we will be submitting to the state. Once the date for submission is released, it should be noted that I will be recording a video further explaining our reopening proposal, the process we took to develop it, and accelerating strategies we will be implementing during the 2021 school year to improve student outcomes and ensure the Hillside Public Schools becomes a model district in Union County, the state, and nation. Tonight's presentation is divided into 3 parts: a brief overview of New Jersey's recovery plan, an update on our reopening committee, whose work began in April, and finally, the reopening proposal we will be submitting to the state. I want to thank our community stakeholders, board members, and staff who have been involved with this process. As you may or may not know, the CDC has produced guiding principles for our nation to keep in mind when considering reopening schools. One core idea was the more a student or staff member interacts with, and the longer that interaction, the higher risk of COVID-19 spread. As you can see, based on the PowerPoint, the lowest risk for COVID-19 spread is virtual instruction. In this model, both students and teachers engage in virtual-only classes, activities, and events. A moderate risk scenario is hybrid models that reduces class size and require school districts to adhere to health and safety safeguards procedures. The highest risk being school returning as normal. We've been planning for all 3 scenarios and are prepared to implement each one as we may experience all 3 within this year. On June 26, as you may or may not know, the state of New Jersey released its blueprint to assist schools with reopening in September of 2020. The DOE identified 10 critical areas of operation that must be addressed in their restart plans, ranging from scheduling, leadership, health and safety, policies, funding, to name a few. As revealed in the plan, the public health data and trends currently support the reopening of school for modified in-person operations in the fall of 2020. Some of the health and safety safeguards prevalent are as follows: reduced class sizes and staggered schedules, pre-screening and health checks prior to entering the school building, maintaining social distancing, and when not possible, providing barriers, increased sanitation and disinfecting routines in high-risk areas or commonly used areas, increased hand washing. Facial coverings must be worn by all adults and visitors and are mandated to be worn by students when social distancing is not possible. Districts are also required to implement contact tracing policies, and students will be able to participate in athletics following the NJSIAA's guidelines. Some other important requirements. As announced by Governor Murphy on Monday, Districts must plan to accommodate parents who opt for virtual learning, and districts are required to address students' social and emotional health and implement multi-tiered systems of support. Staff with pre-existing or underlying medical conditions have to be accommodated, and most importantly, districts must be prepared at any point in the year to pivot to remote instruction. The Hillside Public Schools Reopening Committee began meeting in April of 2020, as we wanted to ensure we were in position to reimagine our schools and transform results for our students. More importantly, this board, superintendent, and leaders throughout our district were not satisfied with our delivery of remote instruction this spring. When the committee formed, it initially included principals, school nurses, directors, operation managers, and of course the superintendent's cabinet, our BA and director of curriculum. In planning, I developed a logic model that ensured when we planned, we had 4 key principles in mind. Our first priority being the health and safety of our students, our staff, and their families. We also wanted to ensure we developed strategies that would accelerate unfinished learning, assess learning losses or gains during school closure, and address social emotional needs that may have been prompted by COVID. Additionally, we wanted to ensure we engaged our academically vulnerable students and created deliberate strategies to support them. And finally, any plan that we put forward, we wanted to make sure it was fluid across any scenario we may be required to implement this year, whether it be remote learning, hybrid, or return to normalcy. The committee has since branched off into subcommittees, including more stakeholders in core areas of the district, including but not limited to operations, transportation, curriculum and instruction, food services, etc., as listed on the slide. We meet once a week and report out on implementation of our progress. Some key activities the committee has done. We started out in April researching and examining reopening plans and models from other states and countries, while simultaneously auditing our curricular resources to ensure they reflect the rigor and cultural sensitivity our students deserve. We ordered masks for students, staff, thermometers, CDC-approved cleaning materials and disinfectants, most importantly, laptops, hotspots, and curricular resources. We also identified our child care provider for families in need, and I created a 6-week reopening playbook that outlines the 130 tasks we need to complete by August 30th, 2020. Here's just a quick sample of one portion of that 6-week playbook. I'll go into more detail in my video that will be available on our website. The final part of my report this evening outlines our reopening plan proposal. I must emphasize that the board has been involved with this process, is in complete support of our proposal. In an effort to ensure the health and safety of our students, staff, and their families, which remains our top priority, we will propose to launch the school year virtually. Virtual learning this fall will be completely different than what we experienced this spring. We are now a one-to-one district. We've ordered hotspots to address connectivity issues, and we will be applying for the additional grant funds based on Governor Murphy's initiative to close the digital divide. I should also note, credit must be given to our board because they were committed prior to the pandemic for this district to become a one-to-one district. That commitment will be realized this fall. Students will be required to follow their normal bell schedule. If a child has English at 8:55, the class will begin virtually during that time. There will be no modification to our grading policy, as teachers will be delivering live, rigorous, coherent, grade level appropriate instruction utilizing our new curricular resources. Teachers will also receive robust training in September and throughout the first marking period on effective virtual instruction delivery. Things like morning announcements will occur virtually, along with professional development for our teachers, observations, and team meetings. Students will be allowed to participate in athletics following NJSIAA guidelines, in addition to other co-curricular activities where possible. Students will also have the opportunity to participate in virtual tutorials, and we are planning to launch a homework help center this year where we will hire our best teachers to support students in need. The tool that brings our virtual instruction together and will drive improvements is Canvas. Canvas is a virtual learning platform that organizes a district's virtual experience in one place. Students can log in, click on their class, and receive live instruction. Each student will have a private account. Classes and lessons can be recorded or pre-recorded in addition to being archived on the platform if in fact students need additional review for homework and test preparation. Parents will have access regardless of their email provider, but will not be permitted to participate in virtual classrooms when live instruction is occurring. Instead, parents will have full access to understand their child's assignments, their due dates, grades, etc. Teachers will be following our district's new scope and sequence, and assessments will be delivered and graded virtually. The system is compatible with all of our resources, including Genesis, our student information and grading system. Teachers will also be able to differentiate and personalize instruction along with receiving 24-hour tech support. We are also training staff at each building to become experts in Canvas. With that, we will also host virtual parent academies to support families throughout the year and in September. We will revisit our proposed return to school after the first marking period. As required by the DOE, our second option is a hybrid instructional model, which reduces the number of students in the school and requires blended instruction or virtual learning every other day or week. Our hybrid instructional model takes a class of 20 to 25 students and divides it into two cohorts, Cohort A and Cohort B. Students will attend school every other day based on their cohort assignment following CDC and NJDOE health and safety safeguards. Cohort A will attend school on an A day, while Cohort B is engaged in synchronous instruction from home. A synchronous classroom allows students to learn the same content at the same time from two different locations. We will live stream instruction from our classrooms using Canvas to support students who are home and engage virtually. Siblings will be paired together to the greatest extent possible. Here's an example of what the first 10 days of school would look like should we be required to implement a hybrid schedule. A day will be on September 8th. Cohort A will report for in-person instruction, and Cohort B will engage in synchronous instruction from home. On B day, September 9th, Cohort B reports for in-person, while Cohort A is engaged from home. Students will attend school 2 to 3 days per week in a 10-day period of time. Again, we are required to submit the hybrid instructional model and prepare to implement it if deemed necessary by the Department of Education. But I must reinforce that this board, superintendent, all leaders and stakeholders in this district are proposing to launch the year virtually. Here's what you can expect. A letter will be mailed home to families on July 31st explaining both models. The district will submit our reopening plan, and upon approval by the DOE, it will be released to the community. It will also be on our website, which we are overhauling to become our communication hub. We can expect our plan to be approved by the DOE by August 8th. And as mentioned earlier, I will be recording a video going into further details about both models and core strategies we are implementing to improve student outcomes. The video will be posted on our website the week of August 3rd. All student schedules and cohort assignments, if applicable, will be mailed home the week of August 21st. We will also host virtual parent trainings based on which model we are approved to implement. Finally, families in need will be allowed to retrieve technology and other items needed for success beginning the last week in August. That's all I have for my superintendent's report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Superintendent Gregory.
I just want to know, what is the trigger event? Under the circumstance that we begin with online learning, what would be the trigger event for returning to schools?
Public health data entrance.
There's no specific contract like that.
We're going to revisit whether it's safe for us to return and our staff to return and after the first market period. But we are, out of an abundance of caution, we want to start the year virtually.
So
The big trigger, just to be transparent, is a vaccination for me. And I'm sure other board members, those who have been on our committee, agree.
So just from a public perspective, from the parents and the students and the faculty, if we would be starting online, they should expect that that will continue regardless of events, at least for the first month.
Yes, definitely. Yep. Unless, of course, some drastic shift occurs.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to take motion to go into executive session.
All in favor?
Aye. Be it resolved pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act that the Board of Education meet in closed executive session at this time to discuss matters relating to labor negotiations and personnel matters. The board will reconvene in public session at the conclusion of the closed session. The matter discussed in closed session will be disclosed to the public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Motion to go back into public session. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. At this time, Ms. Harmon, can you move items under organization?
This time, recommend items 1 through 17 under organization.
Is there a second? Wall. Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Salters?
Yes, items 1 to 13, those are items 14A and 15, yes to all the items 16.
Sorry, one more time. Yes, I have everything, but a no for 14A
And 15.
and 15?
Yes.
Got it. Mr. Shapiro?
Yes.
Ms. Worrell? Ms. Cook?
Yes. Ms. Best, can you move items under finance?
I'd like to move items 1 through 4 under finance.
Second.
Ms. Best?
Yes?
Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Lofton? Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Salters?
Yes.
Mr. Shapiro?
Yes.
Ms. Wall? Ms. Cook?
Yes. Mr. Robinson, can you move items under buildings and grounds?
Yes, so I move items 1 and 2 under buildings and grounds.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Best?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Salters?
Yes.
Mr. Shapiro?
Yes.
Ms. Wall?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes. Ms. Laurel, can you move items under education?
Make a motion to move items 1 through 6 under education.
Is there a second? Ms. Best?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Salters?
Yes.
Mr. Shapiro?
Yes.
Ms. Wall?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes. Mr. Shapiro, can you move items under labor?
Motion to move items 1 through 15 under labor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Best?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Salters?
Yes, items 1 to 13, no to 14, yes to 15. Yes, everything but 14.
Understood. Mr. Shapiro?
Yes.
Ms. Laurel? Ms. Cook?
Yes. Any old business? At this time, we would like to thank everybody for tuning in, thank our board members for coming out. Happy birthday to Ms. Best. I would like to once again congratulate our class of 2020. We have 4 amazing in-person graduations. I would also like to thank Ms. Bond from the Hillside High School senior class advisor. All our students were able to get all their dues that they paid back, and through her fundraising, all their gowns and graduation expenses were covered, and she gave them t-shirts and monogrammed towels. So we'd like to say thank you to her for doing that this year with everything going on. I would also like to applaud our families during this time of COVID, especially our students. When this took place, it just came out of nowhere, and everybody adapted to the sudden changes with little resistance. And as Mr. Gregory said, come September, we will be well prepared to move forward with virtual learning, something that we had started long before COVID, but we are well prepared to go through it now. Hope everybody continues to have a safe, happy summer, and we will see you next month. Thank you. Motion to close.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.